that should be live. Thank you for doing this once again.
Yeah.
I will probably repeat myself fairly often because one, last night was the first day of staff party, so I also had to drive my partner to the airport at like 5
Okay.
a.m. today. So brain is
All
doing
over the place. All
doing
over the place. Believe I get it. Believe I get it. I get it. Here, let me
but
close the
yeah,
blinds so
it'll
you
be
can
fun.
see me a little better.
I thank you for doing this. It's always fun. Stand by. We're gonna
Yeah.
go on the radio here. Jane here on Desert Islands. We also had some Rita Indiana and Los Misterios and Ray Zaragoza at the top of that set. So if you're just tuning in to Desert Islands, this is the show where I make mixtapes based on, I guess, 10 records they would bring to a desert island. And today I'm making one for Tzipporah, who is actually with me now. I hope. Can you hear me now? Did we
Yeah.
work it out?
Yes.
Excellent.
Tech issues resolved.
Perfect. Yeah, it is it's always a kind of a juggling act when you're going live on anything.
Yeah.
Appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the thoughtfulness you put into this Desert Island Picks list. Not that it's not a hard question that you have to be pensive and thoughtful and vulnerable to do. It's also kind of impossible to answer. But you kind of brought a concept to the table that I really enjoyed. So can you talk about your thought process on making this top 10 list today?
Yeah, so some of the things that I really enjoy hearing in the music that I listen to, I mean, one, like protest music with a like political message, and like I write about that in my own music. But one of my favorite things about a lot of these songs, even though like the genres are very disparate, like you didn't think you'd hear heavy metal and klezmer on the same playlist at 10 o'clock on a Wednesday, did you? But what I love about these artists is that they're taking contemporary genres and reinterpreting them through their own cultural lenses and fusing them with the folk musics of their own cultures, which in my opinion yields some of the coolest sounding music. And so like those are the kinds of things that get me really, really excited when it comes to my music choices.
Yeah. I really enjoy how this list is touching on so many different genres. And so I actually tried to make this mixtape in kind based off of like that prompt. I tried to find artists that I thought were actually doing the same from like their backgrounds. And I hope I'm making the mark. And if I'm not, thanks for coming.
Yeah. No, I thought you did a great job. I was like really like I thought you did a great job stitching all of these different genres together. It's just like, how is he gonna make Orphaned Land and Daniel Kahn and Awa and Tolly all fit in the same playlist? Because like there's like some similarities in the things that they talk about, but like they sound so different from each other. How is he gonna do it? I thought you did a great job, and you even included some artists that like I would not have thought to put on a playlist with these kinds of musics. And it was just like, oh, I would have never thought of that. But like, I think that fits great.
But it's also introducing me to a lot of things on your end too, of just stuff I haven't actually heard of. So it was enjoyable to put together. But also I really like the fact that you did this for this Desert Island Picks list, because I feel like you are accomplishing this in your own work as well. Or at least I think from my point of view, it's kind of what you're going for, but let's not should all over ourselves. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's kind of how I feel about it. But in your own words, let's talk about your new album, because I feel like this ties in really well with the theme of the day here.
Yeah. So, my new album. What do you want to know?
Well, I know we're going to talk about the show coming up January 21st, but and we're also going to hear a cut off of it. So if folks like what they hear, is it going to be available on streaming before that show, or are folks going to have to wait until January 21st?
So it's already out. I released it over Hanukkah, and so you can download it off of Bandcamp, and you can also stream it most places where you can stream music, so like Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, all the places is, so like if you want a little taste, go listen to the album, and then if you want to see me live, come to the show. Ideally, but do both.
Perfect. Well, we will talk about the release show coming up the next break, but we still have to get to 2 more tracks on your Desert Island Picks list. Let's start with one of them. Here's American Dream by Ondara here on Desert Islands.
He was. Sorry, I was just like wiping out.
Did the music go away, or am I kind of in?
It's like in the background, but I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Oh, also, they, by the way.
Oh, okay. They pronouns. Got it.
Yes. Okay, yeah. Definitely want to get more in depth about just like how you decided to embark on the concept for your record, just because it's way better to have the artist put that in their own words than me ask leading questions about it. But it'll also just kind of make a good tie-in, because that'll be like when we're going to no, two more sets actually. Why don't we talk about that next talk break of just like the concept, the work overall, and like the record itself, and then we'll talk about the show.
Okay. Sorry, I was a little sorry, I was like a little unclear on that when you were like album. Talking about myself. Like, this is
it's breadcrumbs, just because it's like, this is kind of like a weird format, because I feel like it's kind of like a podcast sometimes.
A little bit, yeah.
And then there's like these moments where it's just like, it's like theater, like where we have to like, pretend we haven't been talking the entire time. So if there is something that happens like in this part of the chat that is like, oh, we should, like, there's a different audience, we should be talking about this again, I might ask similar, if not the same exact questions. So that's probably the only weird thing that'll happen. Other than that, if there's anything specific you wanted to like just bring up, I can just ask a question about that. We can talk about it. Other than that, it's just kind of like free flowing, and whatever happens. Speaking of that, I kind of had like a random connection. Yesterday I met Janine from She-Rock, and it's like, oh, of course, it's like it's kind of funny at this point, like there's like this generation of musicians that are like, there's like a School of Rock pool, and there's like a She-Rock pool of like a lot of bands are coming out of She-Rock. So it's just like, I know I always just like, oh, it's a big small town, but like that was like a moment where I was like, wow, it really is a small town.
Yeah.
How long have you been involved with She-Rock?
So I am not currently involved with them, but I was involved like on and off for like, I would say 3 years. So I was teaching at the band camps, and then I was also on their board of directors for a little bit. It was like, I love the work that they do. Right now it's just like, I don't have time for this. I've got so many other things going on. So but yeah, like Janine's great. Like a lot of the folks from that community are like really, really awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, a lot of people come in and out of either like taking like the camps or actually teaching. Like a lot of creatives are coming in
Mhm.
And it's just like I don't know. I think it's funny how often you'll see bands or artists like teaching or coming out of there. Uh,
Mhm.
and it is like a really cool program too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I also get like not having enough time as well. Like I think that's
Mhm.
like kind of why it's just the life of a freelance creative at
Yeah.
that point. Like things
Mhm.
kind of come up, or like sometimes the timing of the camps is just like, oh, I'm not even gonna be here
Right. Right.
to like participate in that.
Yeah.
Um, so that's a thing. So let's speaking of gigs, like I don't want because like I kind of want to obviously focus on the release show,
Mhm.
but looking forward, since in a bit we are going to do kind of like a local calendar thing. Are there
Mhm.
other performances in or around Minnesota coming up post release that you have planned?
Yeah, so I'm there's this like klezmer artist named Sarah Larson. Maybe the name rings a bell, maybe it doesn't. Who is organizing a show at Temple of Aaron Synagogue called Klezmer on Ice, which I will be performing at with my friend Izzy Buckner, who plays with Ungrateful Little String Band.
Yeah,
What klezmer on ice? Like, are we ice skating and play? Like, is there ice drinks? Ice involved? I don't know, but I'm intrigued. So, that's coming up, and then Ellen Stanley from Women Folk, who I
yeah.
was on at 8 a.m. for that, is having a showcase on March 20th, I believe, at the
Okay.
331 Club, right before the Rowe Family Singers does their weekly Rowe Family Singer thing. So I'll
Yeah.
be performing that as well. In what format, haven't decided yet. Solo or not, haven't decided yet. But that's a thing that's also coming up. So slowly
It,
getting there with the shows.
is Klezmer on Ice in like does that venue have a place to put ice like for an ice skating? Like, are you going to be surprised in that way, or it's just like, hey, you're on
I
an ice rink?
I have I'm assuming like they're gonna be like, I don't know, maybe like making an ice rink out like on their lawn with a hose or something. I have no idea. I no clue what's going on.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
like
if
I'm
we were holding it today, the ice is just kind of there for us. 'Cause
right, exactly.
well, that's good. That's good. And of course, like if there's any point, like we can replug those as well.
Mhm. Mhm.
It depends if you want to do that. If you want to like keep the focus on January 21st, because I
Mhm.
get it. It's a lot of work to do anything, but especially one of these things, because it's just like I think like a lot of people forget that like once the thing is done, that doesn't mean you are done.
Right.
There's always like even like the post like marketing, like, oh, the show is over. That means we're done. It's like, no, there's like this whole other
Mhm.
thing that you got to do. It just is a different kind of work, but like there is
Yeah.
like still this whole thing. So yeah, it's just a lot to do. So like
Mhm.
I want to make sure we talk about that as much as possible, just because yeah, it's it's hard to plan anything. But of course, when we talk about it, we'll do who's playing with you, times and stuff
Mhm.
like that. But also, I don't want to give trade secrets away. If there's like
Mhm.
just like, hey, you should probably go to the show to find this out. Totally get that as well. Um, don't want to like pry anything out or beat a dead horse if I can help it, which is a
Right.
lovely idiom, isn't it? Uh, but yeah, after this next song, we'll be back on the radio. So
Cool.
then we'll get back into like just kind of album stuff like that. If you want to talk about like the technical side too, like just
Yeah.
process how you recorded it, where you recorded it, we can totally get into that. Shout
Okay.
out, always encouraged and welcome.
Okay.
But yeah, stuff like that.
Okay.
And stop me if there's anything you're like, oh wait, we need to talk about this, because I would do it. But like I said, I am slow today, but my ADHD is not. So we'll see who wins that battle. I don't know.
Sorry. That was funny. Yeah. Yeah. I have like anxiety disorder, and so like, I mean, not exactly the same as ADHD, obviously, but like I get the excess energy thing.
Yeah, I also have an anxiety disorder. I think that like it's weird because like I feel like it's kind of hard to diagnose because like sometimes they all feel like they're the same thing.
Right.
And they can kind of appear to be the same thing. Like a lot of like mental health problems are like Lyme's disease, where it's just like, you're probably fine, or it's probably this, or it's probably, you know, like, and it's just like it's just like, yeah, maybe it's just like you're just, you know, and so sometimes it's like one or the other. I think it's just like it's hard to tell what is ADHD and what is anxiety.
Yeah.
But also like depression too, because like sometimes the ADHD thing like will put you in that place where you're like procrastinating. You know you're procrastinating. You know you shouldn't be procrastinating. You're almost having an out-of-body experience where you're like watching yourself procrastinate and like sit there. And it's like that like episode of Black Mirror where you're like trapped in like that teddy bear and you're like, why are we doing this? Like, and you're just like doom scrolling. So it's like that is also a thing too. But like I've noticed like a lot of musicians kind of like, or not even just musicians. I shouldn't like claim that, but like a lot of creatives kind of work with or around a lot of these. It's pretty common. But also it's if you're feeling anxious in a time like this, totally valid. Yeah, get it. It's like they're perfectly reasonable things to be anxious about too.
Yeah.
But also anxiety gives you like perfectly reasonable things to like not be anxious about, but like you still feel like, why do I hear the boss music still? Like even if it's like no perceived threat.
I like how you say, why do I still hear the boss music? That's like that's the perfect way to put it.
Well, it's because that's how it hits you. It's like you'll be like, wait, okay, so I'm doing this. This is getting done. And it's like, and you're just like, I finished that, and like, but it's just kind of like hovering around, like, what am I? It's just like this cloud of that. So I totally get that, but like, it's also, you know, totally common to be like, there's also like sad too, which I was like, just like, I don't know if that's a thing. Like, it's like, I don't have seasonal affect depression. I just have regular depression. But it's just like, no, I think that is like totally like once the sun goes away, like I'm pale enough as is, you know, like, it's just like, I think it's all just kind of happening and weird weather.
Yeah, I get at least the like sads part. I mean, I like kind of come with a permatan already, but like,
there you go. Stand by because we're gonna go back on the air here.
All right.
Link Ray, Fire and Brimstone, and then we had Chinarwen off of, was that their first record? They've got a lot of great records. They are a cool band, and if you like what you hear, you should check them out. And then Undara at the top of that set. That was released recently in 2022. Great local music. Well, maybe not local for long at this point. That was a really great record. We'll see big things coming up for Andara. If you're just tuning in, this is Desert Islands, the show where I make mixtapes for my guests based on the 10 records they would bring to a desert island. And today's mixtape is for Tzipporah, who I'm talking with now,
Hi.
both virtually and on the radio. And if you are one of the folks that likes to play along with both at home, please don't do so while you're driving. The video gets archived. You can watch it anytime. And especially today, it was not fun. Not fun out there today.
Something about Mercury and Gatorade or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely in Gatorade. Um, I don't know what color, but it's definitely in Gatorade
I
today.
would say blue. I mean, it's
Yeah,
the blue guy.
yeah,
The blue guy. I mean, icy outside. I think that makes sense.
yeah. Oh, for sure, for sure. Well, I tell you what is fun, planning a release around an album that you worked really, really hard on, because
Hmm.
that is something you just recently did. So we were kind of talking about like you're thinking about crafting this desert islands list, but I see a lot of those thought processes like in your original work as well. So how did you decide to embark on this journey? Because it sounds like a pretty heavy undertaking. Did you already have some of these songs just kind of like, you just started to see the pieces where it's just like, oh, this is like the overall concept? Or did you just kind of start from square one and it's like, I'm picking this direction and I'm going to walk this path?
So, I mean, the short answer is kind of both.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
um, I had released an EP back in 2020, right before the pandemic hit, was planning a release show for that, and
Yeah.
then COVID was like, nope.
Yep.
So that didn't happen. So then I was just kind of sitting there like, okay, now what? And I had a lot of time to think and reflect and write music. And so most of these songs are songs that I've written over the course of the last couple of years.
Mhm.
And my thinking behind turning it into an album was kind of twofold. So, on the one hand, I was, asking some, questions about myself, my own identities,
Of course.
where it is I stand within the Jewish community as a whole, and trying to process some of the things that had happened to me growing up, and also understanding like, well, what is my own place within the Jewish community. And so this album in part is an exploration of that. The other motivating factor was, and like, I kind of mentioned this on Women Folk with Ellen, um, but in the last, I mean, these are things that are, of course, always present, but in the last couple of years, things have shifted in terms of the political landscape, let's say.
Yeah.
And I was looking around and noticing how, like, specifically, like, anti-Semitism, anti-Semitic violence, hate crimes against my community, general anti-Semitic discourse, these kinds of things were skyrocketing and
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
becoming even more of a problem than it already was, because we're already
Yes.
disproportionately targeted by that kind of stuff to begin with.
Yes.
And so I wanted to create this album as a way to uplift my community, as a way to say like, hey, we're Jews and that's cool, and
Mhm.
anybody who thinks otherwise, screw them.
Yeah.
Because like all of the resilience and the joy of being Jewish, the things that we've cultivated over the centuries in spite of all of the bad things that have happened to us, these are
Mhm.
things that make us as a people beautiful and wonderful. And I want to shed some light on that, and focus on that, and not just the trauma aspect that comes with
Yes.
being Jewish. So that was kind of the twofold thinking process that went into putting all these songs together.
Yeah, and I love how just trying to turn this into a celebration, just because it has been getting real, and a lot
Yeah.
of people have been. It's like, well, if you're terminally online, you've probably already seen it. But for a lot of other people, it's kind of like a frog in a boiling pot, and
Right.
like the problem is, it's just like, oh, that doesn't affect me. It's just like, well, yeah, it does. Because if we have people talking about other people this way, we're in trouble, folks.
Right.
Where it's just like, we shouldn't even be thinking about like this at all. So like, if we're getting to a point where it's just like, that doesn't affect me. It's like, oh yes, it does. But
Mhm.
not kind of going trauma, 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 trauma. And this is the great thing about music, or at least I've noticed, it's just like it.
Mhm.
Other than food, it's like the one thing that actually brings everybody together.
Yeah.
And it's always a great avenue and outlet to actually talk about this, and especially share these things from your own experience, and be like, well,
Mhm.
hey, this is me, and come share this with me.
Yeah.
So thank you for being on the show. I know you're releasing this record at the Hook pretty soon, so you're kind of in that press junket mode and trying to talk to everybody and answer
Oh
the
yeah.
same questions over and over and over again. So I appreciate you taking the time to be here. But speaking of the time, I am a talker, and I kind of talk a lot. And if we don't have time to finish the entire mixtape, we have one more track from your top 10 up here, but we also have some Buscabulla coming up, some Gustavo Cerati, and the Mexican Institute of Sound in this next list. But we're also going to hear something from Tales of the Diaspora. So stick around for that. But first, we have this.
Winter in Minnesota. The air punches you in the face like an icy fist.
Oh, I love our underwriting parts because we get to like just do that. Um,
Punches you in the face and I see.
the voice acting is so good too. Like, it's just like so friendly. So yes, thank you for being patient with that, because I do have to play those every now and again, and it's really easy to forget to once the conversation kind of starts hitting.
Mhm. Sorry, what?
Oh, no worries.
I'm gonna just
Making
be like
sure.
randomly bursting out laughing for the rest of the day.
But yeah, I mean, you also like it's like sometimes like it's like that the same level of exhaustion of like being at a sleepover, where like at a certain time like everything is funny. I feel like
Yep.
releasing an album is kind of like that, where it's just like,
Oh
we're
yeah.
almost there. We're
Oh
almost
yeah.
there. No, if we keep going, we'll stay up all night, and we'll
Yeah.
like we'll make it. And it's
Yeah.
a total.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely like in this last couple weeks like starting to hit that stretch.
Oh, I can
And
imagine. Yeah.
like it's just like okay, I just need to get through the next couple of weeks and like, you know, just like remember like don't put so much pressure on yourself. You are one person doing the jobs of like three people on
Yeah.
top of your own actual job where you're
Yeah.
also one person doing the jobs of three people. So like give yourself some grace. Like it'll
Yeah.
be okay. It'll be
That's the
fine.
hardest thing to do, I think.
Yeah.
Because there's always like that thought where it's just like, like those affirmations kind of come in, where it's just
Mhm.
like, you know what? No, like society is speeding up, and a lot of us have to do the jobs of three different people,
Yeah.
and it's okay to cut people some slack, because we're all going through a lot. And then there's like a little voice in the back of your head that's just go, but not you though. You should. And you're
Oh
like,
yeah.
yeah, not
That,
me though. I need to stay the course, and I like, and
yeah.
it's
Hopefully
easy to
my
get wrapped up in that.
my therapist has been yelling at me about that like pretty much nonstop the last few weeks.
Yeah, I say like I think my New Year's resolution for the past 7 years has been like, this is the year I'm gonna learn how to slow down.
But yeah, I do think it does get easier to kind of cut yourself some slack, but the hard part is actually cutting yourself some slack, which is like, I start to, and it's just like, oh wait, I can breathe again, but like I also don't cut myself like any slack. Like it's it's hard. It's hard not to. But I don't know. I've noticed a lot of creatives also have this, and I wonder if it's just like, does the creative work attract this kind of thing, or is it just like this sheer reality that like if you're going to be a creative anything and kind of like do it in the public anything, like the internet or forums of any kind where people gather, you kind of have to be your own press person and your own producer and then your own arranger, and then you kind of have to be your own manager and handle logistics for all the people you're working with, and then you kind of have to be your own graphic designer, and you have to be your own man, and then you have to be your own. So it's just like, is does the creative work attract the people who are willing to wear a lot of hats, or is it just like that's what, like, this is us naturally reacting to whatever?
It's chicken or the egg kind of argument. There's like a chicken or the egg, which one came first kind of argument.
Like, and not to like use another metaphor I've already said, but like the frog in the boiling pot. I think we are kind of already that, where it's just like, but how do you stop?
Right.
Like, and where would you stop at this point? Because it's just like I don't know. It's there is like a certain level of like, I think part of me kind of likes it. Even though like a lot of the times it's just, you're kind of like doing it kicking and screaming, where it's just like, I just want to play the song.
I cannot tell you how many times these past couple of weeks I was like, I just want to play the music. Why do I have to spend so much time doing all the not fun things when all I want to do is just play the damn music?
And here I am going like, totally, I totally agree with you. But let's talk about the music like one more time. And it does get to that, because I think that's what attracted all of us to this, is like, there is kind of like a soothing thing of like just like making the thing itself. If you're a sculptor, like actually working with the medium, if you're I actually think there is a relaxing nature to just kind of playing an instrument.
I would agree with that.
And it's just part of the, like, at the end of the day, I think we're all just kind of nerds for that actual part. And that's okay. Like, I think like it makes it fun. And like everyone likes music, but like for different reasons, you know, it's just like, not everyone wants to look, or like, well, wait, what's in the projection room? Like, some people are like, I just want to watch the movie. I don't care what's in the projection room. Like, it's good. I like this movie. Like, it's not like, like, sit down, let me watch the movie. So I think it's a little bit of that too. But speaking of actually playing the music, like, where did you start? Like, what was your first instrument that you picked up? Like, how did you start playing music?
So I was singing, like, pretty much since I was like old enough to start talking. And then at the age of 7, I was like, I want to play flute. And then I played flute for a couple of years, and I was like, I want to play an instrument that I can sing with. So then I was like, how about guitar? So then I started taking guitar lessons at the age of 12, and I was taking classical guitar lessons, and, you know, went to went to school for music, and was kind of like being pushed in that direction in terms of the things that I was learning. But then there was this other part of me is like, but I want to like learn how to solo. I want to learn how to like play music from my own culture, and like not all these like super Eurocentric things that I'm being pushed to learn. Which got me in trouble with multiple instructors on more than one occasion.
I can imagine. But are you familiar with Adam Neely at all?
The name sounds vaguely familiar, but
he is a YouTube creative, but he released a video about the white supremacist undertones and the history of white supremacy in music theory.
Okay, yes, that's where I think I watched this video.
It was like really vindicating for me as, because like I was self-taught and then kind of went to school for it because it's, like you're grown up and that's beaten into you, where it's just like you can't just do that. You need a backup plan. You need to make this a legitimate thing. So it's like, I guess I gotta go to college. And so you go to college, and I was always just like chasing sounds, picking up instruments, and kind of like, start with piano, and then you're like, well, I kind of want to like stand up and play, and like, because I love what you said about like, well, I want to be able to play something I can sing with, not just like all my breath is focused on this instrument. It's like that's it's like, you go to guitar, and then you realize guitar like string things kind of. Once you kind of get the hang of one, you can kind of try your hat at another and some other. But like you go to college, and it's like, now I gotta like learn how to do the nuts and bolts. Theory. And there were so many aspects of theory that I felt like broke my brain in a good way, where it's like, that makes it so much simpler.
Yeah.
A lot of aspects of theory that I'm sitting here like just kind of going like, I feel like you're overcomplicating it for the sake of overcomplicating it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like
conspiracy minded, it's like, I think you're overcomplicating it to like gatekeep it, to like keep like people out of like.
I mean, yeah. There is, one of the things that I would say really frustrated me was like the whole elitism aspect of like a lot of it is like, okay, like I'm grateful for all of this knowledge, grateful for like, everything I learned from the instructors, but what it just like would have been nice for, at least in the like music major track, to like not just have one ethnomusicology class where like, okay, we learn about this, but it's like an afterthought, and like most of the focus is on like Western classical music and its derivatives, and everything else is kind of seen as lesser. And that's something that's always like really, really bothered me about like, those kinds of like conservatory style musical environments. It's just like, well, I mean, yes, classical music is great, but there's more than one way to be a good musician. And like music, there's like not one music theory. Like, I mean, that's kind of touching on the video that we're both talking about. There's multiple music theories out there. Each music needs to be understood in its own like theoretical framework and context. It's not like you can, like, there's threads that overlap, but like you can't, like there's different skills that you'll need to learn to be able to play and understand different kinds of music. And like, why is it that everybody's being pushed in this one venue, and some of us, specifically those of us that come from marginalized backgrounds, are like, but we want to do this, and like we're being shamed for it. Like that characterized at least a lot of my experience as a music student. And like in my own teaching practice, I like work very hard to like not do that.
And I think like they try to teach it like this this is etched in stone, and it's like this like science or mathematical language, where it's just like, no, I think it's more of like a social language, like it's like learning a language to communicate with, because like it's not like you're not just like learning notes, you're learning like musical phrases. This is like vocabulary. Like if you learn a riff, it's, you know, and sorry shredders, I'm sorry shredders, but like learning a riff on guitar and trying to play it as fast as possible, yeah, there is some actual merit to doing that. You know, like you want to be able to control the speed and stuff like that. But like I think these should be treated like vocab words or phrases or things that you can actually say to like kind of, you hear this and you like, you're having a conversation. It's either like a counterpoint or you're like, oh no, I totally agree with that, and like kind of like reinforcing a melody. And it's like I feel like there's like this weird thing where like I experienced you know, like when we would do theory stuff, like as long as I could pick up an instrument and play it, like it's like, oh, so it's like this. And it was like, it was almost just like getting shamed for arriving at the same answer the wrong way.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just like, and then like it's just like, well, how did you get that? It's like, well, I learned something like this, where it's just like, well, that's the wrong way. Like that music is not considered like, well, I don't know, valid or whatever. And it's just like, but it just is like, wait, if I arrived at the same conclusion from this path, why am I wrong? Why are you telling me wrong?
Right. Yeah.
Why is everything wrong? This is an art. Like this is like
it's art.
I could never get it.
No, I totally agree. And you know, I think I'm seeing things starting to shift. So I'm hoping that like the next generation of people who are like going to university for music school now, if that's a route that they want to take, or, you know, taking that, like they won't have to experience those kinds of things.
We're going to go back on the air. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay, so Mexican Institute of Sound, Gustavo Cerati and Buscabulla in that set. If you're just tuning in off mic, we're talking about music in depth. If that sounds like fun for you, we're getting philosophical. You can follow us there. But if you're just looking to have some fun watching music, let's talk about some things going this weekend and beyond. Tonight, the Filthy Kittens release show. This is going to feature She's Green, Lily Blue, Shrimp Olympics, and it's at 7th Street Entry tonight at 7 p.m. Tomorrow, we had Floodwater Angel here last week, and we were talking about their release show. It's tomorrow at 7th Street Entry, so you can check that out. Also tomorrow, Dispatch is having a 6-string party featuring some of the guitarists they featured in their Best Guitarists of the Twin Cities article. That issue's out now. You can check it out. And you can check out the show featuring Too Short to Be Stormtroopers, Javier Trejo, and many more at the Turf Club tomorrow night. Friday, wrestling's back. WrestlePalooza, featuring Gully Boys. That's at First Avenue. We also have Grandma's Boyfriend, The Nunnery, and Black Widows at the Turf Club. Friday night at 8 p.m. Saturday, it's Sean Anonymous's birthday, and he's doing his annual birthday show at the Entry on Saturday. We also have Immersive Sound, Loki Fell. This is a Cosmic, the single for Cosmic. It's the release show. This is going to have Thunderbolt, Pagoda, May, Mars Garb, and it's at the Parkway Theater on Saturday. Also Saturday, Joe Bartel, Power Plant EP release show. Joe Bartel's got a new album out, well, a new record, EP, and this is going to be at Pillar, Forum, and Cafe on Saturday. Of course, Sunday, Charlie Parr is going to continue his residency at the Turf Club every Sunday this month. We also have the Midriff podcast. This is a live podcast taping at Cadence Records, and the guests are Pamela Leisure of Black Widows, but we also have Nat Harvey all the way up from Duluth and Sim One for the guests that are going to be the dais of that podcast. So looking ahead, Cactus Blossoms are every Monday at the Turf Club. My next show is actually the Faded Hand Stamp Productions. It's got rescheduled since the snowpocalypse came, but it's also going to have Loser Magnet. It's also going to have May. It's also going to have Uncle Jesse's Comb. It's a huge lineup, so you can check that out. But shameless self-promotion aside, let's actually do what we're here to do. Tzipporah, you have a release show, not this weekend, but next weekend. I'm going to give people plenty of time to check this out. So this is at the Hook and Ladder, yeah?
Yeah, Hook and Ladder. So doors 7:30, music starts at 8. Tickets are $15 in advance and $20 at the door.
And January 21st, want to make sure. Excellent. Yep. So who's playing with you tonight? That night.
So starting off is going to be Sarah Larson, and she is like, you know, a local klezmer music powerhouse, and she'll be kicking us off with like a short little set. And then after that, the trio Voices of Sfarad are going to be playing, and they're a Sephardic Jewish music group that like does a lot of really important work in preserving music from that particular part of the Jewish diaspora. And a big part of why I wanted to include both of those acts, you know, as a Jewish person of multi-heritage myself, is I wanted to, like, when Jewish people get represented in the media, like, a lot of times it's like, you know, one kind of like very like Ashkenazi, like a character of an caricature, of an Ashkenazi Jew. It's like not very accurate, rooted in stereotypes a lot of the time. And, you know, not only are those stereotypes not accurate, but like the Jewish community is just like so much more diverse beyond that. Like we have existed in places all over the freaking world. And so, you know, it was important to me when I say Tales of the Diaspora to include all of the diaspora, or at least as much of it as I could in one tiny show. So I wanted to make sure that there was music represented from, you know, not just regions of the world that are already pretty well represented the few times Jewish people are represented at all. But, you know, just kind of be like, hey, here's other experiences within the Jewish experience that I think you should know about. So that was like kind of my thinking in picking these particular other acts to play. And then we'll have me at the end, and I will be playing with a few other musicians. So I'll be playing with Izzy Buckner, who plays with Ungrateful Little String Band, and they're fantastic. They're going to be my bassist, and they were actually vocally featured on Tales of the Diaspora, along with Sarah Larson, who is one of the other voices that you'll hear on that particular track. I'll be playing with Danny Lentz, who is a local klezmer violinist, also featured on the Tales of the Diaspora track, the title track. And he'll be playing violin on that track, as well as on a few other particular songs at the show that I felt called for more violin parts. I'll be playing with my good friend David Robinson, who is a local bluegrass legend who like plays with, like, I can't even keep track of how many bands he plays with, but I know that the High 48s he features with a lot. He was a part of Monroe Crossing for a long time, and I think still plays with them sometimes. Backup and Push and a couple other bands in that sphere. And so he'll be on stage with me, and then I will also be joined on stage by Joya, who is the producer of the album, and like did all the mixing and everything. And she is originally from Duluth, came to the Twin Cities for opera. Now she lives in Philadelphia. And so there was this like long distance coordination process along with everything else. But she'll be there. She'll be doing backup vocals, and she will be playing percussion. And then there will be me center stage with my electric guitar and my acoustic guitar and my ukulele and singing. So
There you go.
lots
Yeah.
of moving parts, but I'm excited.
Lots of moving parts. A lot of work goes into putting these things together. And if you're interested in that, January 21st at the Hook in Ladder is when that show is going down. Let's actually listen to a track from Tales of the Diaspora here on Desert Islands. This is Set Myself Free.
You picked the heavy one. Oh, your talking mic went
It's
off
been
again.
6 years since I saw your.
How about now?
Okay, here we go.
I like doing the heavy stuff sometimes, just because I don't know, I like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't know. I also like doing. I know like the video chat thing kind of started in the pandemic, but a lot of people talk about like, oh, let's do an in studio, and it's just like I like playing stuff from the record because I think it actually helps an artist's career more than it does. But often I tend to pick songs that like, I mean, like I kind of listen to the whole thing and I go like, oh, I would fit in addition. And sometimes it's the single that the artist is pushing, but sometimes it's not. But I actually think that kind of helps in a way because it's like there's more tracks from that record out in that broadcast ether, and like because sometimes other stations are like they will look like if you're coming to a town other than your own, sometimes they'll look, you're like, oh, like did anything get played from this record? And if there's more than one song being played on the record, it's like it makes it more active for people kind of so I like doing it that because sometimes it's you know it's like I remember I picked this one I picked this one track where and the band was just like, really, you're gonna play that one? I was like, yeah. He's like, you know it's 11 minutes long, right? I'm like, yeah, I know. They're like, cool.
Yeah, no, it's been cool because you and Ellen have picked like completely different songs, so it's just like kind of cool to see which songs people are gravitating towards. The one thing, sorry to like change the subject, but the one thing I do want to make sure to highlight is that I am launching a crowdfunding campaign ahead of the show to be able to like pay musician stipends because like you're a musician, you get it, like ticket revenue doesn't cover much, especially when it's being split amongst 10 people. So
it's amazing how much is alcohol sales focused still, even with like
and so because of that, it's really important to me to make sure that I can guarantee income for folks, including myself, and so I'm trying to raise enough to be able to pay all 10 musicians a $200 stipend and have some guaranteed income that way. So I want to be encouraging folks to donate because I've still got $1,500 left to go on the crowdfunding campaign, and the release show's not that far away.
Well, so, it's not next week, so folks, you still have time if you're just tuning in. And I think it's wild to see crowdfunding because like I feel like at first it was like this new thing to be like, oh, let's try it this way. Maybe like, and now I feel like it's almost baked into the release process, like someone is going to have to crowdfund something. Like it's like it's almost like healthcare in this country. It's like healthcare is GoFundMe. like the same thing with like album release cycles where it's like, oh, we're putting out an album, we got to crowdfund something, you know, and it's just like, but I'm glad I like the way you're doing it, where it's just like, hey, this isn't, you know, like I'm not just like me. It's just like this is a lot goes into these shows, and we're just making sure people are compensated for the effort and work that they put into doing this.
Yes.
Because it like you heard, folks, you heard who's playing. You know, like it's not just one person. It takes.
I keep forgetting that we're also live streaming.
Well, I mean, I every once in a while because like we're on at 3 different places, and sorry I don't respond to comments. I'm easily distracted. But two, like once I'm kind of like it's kind of like a high wire act. Like once we're on, we're just kind of on.
Right.
But like there are people commenting on Twitch, and like I see a little icon where it's just like, oh, there are people watching live, but like it's like in multiple different places.
Mhm.
But yeah, there are people watching. So hi, thank you for watching.
Hi, hello. All right, this is my first time doing this, so it's a whole new world for me.
Yeah, and it's an ever evolving thing of like trying to figure out what's the best way of doing this. I wanna get better at it, learning more every day. But yeah, I think that's kind of why some people like tuning in live, because it's like there's historically this show has always been about like the hangout in between songs.
Right.
So like during the pandemic, it was Mason's idea to be just like, why don't you just film yourself doing that? Like
Right.
just start, and then it just kind of became an easy way to stay safe. And then like people were like, they were like traveling during the thick of the pandemic, and they got like marooned in different places, but like they were still tuning in remotely. And then I was just like, oh wait, I can just start talking to people from other places. And now it's kind of like, oh, it's kind of fun to do it this way, even at like especially on days like this, where it's like if you had to come to the studio and find parking and this nonsense, it's like now it's just like, well, I can still do the show, it's fine.
Yeah.
So I've kind of liked doing it this way, but yeah, it does take some getting used to, because it's not the same as just hanging out and talking with a person, but I think we're close. I think we're getting close as possible. We can do that.
I mean, I'm having a great time.
Good. I'm glad. And speaking of time, we're actually kind of running out of it. Let's see. I will not have time for Tracy Chapman. We'll probably I'll probably just play it and we'll talk over it and play us out, because Democracy Now! Is after this show, and a lot of people listen to that show. So like I don't want to accidentally bump it. But so if you're just tuning in to hear all that, I will post the full link to the playlist of the stuff we didn't have time to get to. But like Fast Car by Tracy Chapman is what I was going to play off the Tracy Chapman, just because I feel like, one, that record is just so like, good. It's so, and it's enduring too. Like it's like that. It's like this perennial sleeper pick that like it's on a lot of people's desert islands actually, where people are like, oh well, obviously Tracy Chapman's self-titled record. Like
I'm 10 seconds away from becoming a one-person Tracy Chapman tribute band. So
yeah, no, it's a record that just, I don't know. And that's also why I like doing the list, because it's like it's fun to see like the web of just like which records are on a few people's lists. Like this record is one of them. Tom Petty Wildflowers is on a lot of people's lists. Like, and it's never the records like you think, where it's like the most selling records of all time. It's just like pretty well-known artists, but like they're like third or fourth biggest album. Right. And it's like a lot of people, and it's like that's kind of fun to see. Just like it's like, oh yeah, I like this, and then like there's just like a handful of people, and like, well, and obviously I like this, and it's just like, that's like the crossover of like of that. But if we don't have time to get to it, sorry.
That's okay. As long as we're able to at least like announce the crowdfunding campaign on the air real quick before you close out.
We will have to be real quick, because I think we have like a matter of like, could we do it in I think this talk break might be like 20 seconds. Is that okay? Because like noon is noon is noon. And that's when it's just because it's like a national show. Normally at KFAI, it's just like, oh, we can leak a little, and then the next host comes in, it's like, oh hey, come on, this is like I need to yield the floor. Yeah, let's get that in. We have about 70 seconds left on this track, and then when
Mhm.
we're on, we'll do a quick wrap up, and then
Sounds great.
I think I'll just I'll back announce the set, and then let you kind of take it away.
Sounds good.
And then we'll see how much we can get in.
Sounds good.
Cool. Okay. 40 seconds.
Till live.
And
Sounds
then,
good.
okay, so do stand by here.
All right.
This is Filthy Kittens, and they have a release show tonight. This is a track off of that release, so if you like what you hear, you can see it at the entry. Don't Make It Harder off of Trouble in Mayberry. We also heard the new River Sinclair single, Driving. And then, of course, Tzipporah at the top of that set. Set Myself Free off of Tales of the Diaspora. If folks like what they heard, where can they hear it again?
So if you like what you hear, you can go to Bandcamp and download my album on Bandcamp. You can stream on Spotify, Apple Music, basically anywhere that you can stream music online. And then, of course, come to the show as well. Should I just go ahead?
Yeah.
So,
anything you want folks to know about? We're going to have to get to Democracy Now, but anything you would.
So real quick, I have launched a crowdfunding campaign ahead of the album release show, so I can pay all of the musicians who are going to be performing with me at the show fairly. If you're a musician, ticket revenue a lot of times doesn't cover much, especially when it's being split amongst multiple people. And it's important to me to make sure that everybody gets paid fairly for their work. So if you got $20 you can spare, there will be links on my website, and I'm assuming on the Desert Islands Facebook page, where you can contribute to that crowdfunding campaign so that I can make sure that all the artists get paid fairly.
Wow.
Including myself.
Thank you so much for coming on the show today. Stay tuned. Next week, we got Mike Coda. This is Tracy Chapman, but up next, we have Democracy Now!
Fresh Air Community Radio is KFAI FM Minneapolis, St. Paul. Online and archived at kfai.org. It's where community grows.
The viewpoints expressed in this program.
Okay, I think.
Okay, good. Got it.
So much for
All
coming.
right, sorry for that, messy, wait, before we go.
It's live radio. What can you do? As long as we don't swear. But yeah, I'm posting links to the mixtape underneath this video. Also, feel free to post those links in the comments to this as well, just so if people were looking for that, you can find it there as well. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm gonna get going here because I kind of have to head out of town, and I still need to pack. So
okay.
Thank you so much. And good luck at the release show, and congratulations on
you
record. Okay, so I'm gonna press the button here. Stay warm. If you have to travel, be safe out there. It's no joke. They might be clear now, but it should be good. But fun talking to you. Seriously.
Yeah, this was great.
All right. Well, see ya soon. Stay safe. Stay warm.